Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
All right, you made the trip to the Eugene Cannabis TV show here in Eugene. This is on the Community TV, ectv.375.122210 studios. We've got some interesting things to talk about tonight. The main thing I want to start off with my tip that I talk about quite a bit is the oven bags. If you need to transport your medicine, this is how to do it. Oven bags. These are relatively inexpensive. You can pick them up at any grocery store. Something about the plastic, it really kills the odor when you're transporting. So if you got anything you're going to be transporting and you want to keep your odor down, that's how to do it. It's the oven bags from Reynolds. I have no dog in the fight, so I got any reason to promote them other than the fact that they do work. And also we have the Just Say No flyer. If you have any needed information on medical marijuana stuff, questions, whether it be you want to be a patient or you want to be a grower or anything about the program, just let us know. Send us an email, and the email addresses you see on your screen during the show. We can get this to you. It's a Microsoft Word document, and it's got a lot of information in it. If you need to know where to get to clinic, go to a clinic to find a doctor to sign your papers. If you are a patient or a grower, contact information here for organizations that are helping patients helping patients. So there's a lot of good information in that pamphlet. The main thing I want to talk about tonight is the Oregon Cannabis Connection newspaper. This is a paper that's come out here in Oregon. That's just been out in the last year and a half, I think, or year. This is a great paper that's put up by our friend Keith Macer out of Medford. He's going to be on the show one of these days. We haven't got it together yet, but he is out of town, so it's kind of hard for him to get in here on a Tuesday night. But he's definitely coming, so we'll be able to talk to him at length about the paper. But I thought that I'd take a quick run through this and I just give some highlights of some of the things that are in this. And again, if you need a copy of this, you can send us an email and we'll figure out how to get a copy to you. You definitely can go to the Voter Power office on River Avenue during patient resource days. That's on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and you pick up a copy then. But this is the, let's see, yes, it's the 4th issue, the Volume 1, 4th issue. So this is the 4th issue of the paper. And he's got quite a few, and one thing that's interesting is the ads. Mama's organization out of the Dalles and the Bend and the Portland that has a medical marijuana clinic. They have an advertisement in here. Portland Dam University, excuse me, has an ad in here. That's our friends Mike and Jen. That's similar to the Oaksterdam University in California. They give classes on how to grow, how to cook with the medicine, how to set up a dispensary, a club, cafe, about anything you want to know about medical marijuana and how to proceed further with it. They have classes for that, so it's really interesting. And then they got an article here on Oregon Normals. Portland, their cannabis lounge that they've opened up, and that's going real well. Of course, you have to be a card holder to go there, and you can't take any medicine out with you, but you can pay a small use fee and actually go in and medicate there, as well as you're eating and drinking. So it's a good opportunity for medical patients. Also, in this last campaign, there were some law enforcement officers that seemed to be violating election rules. Complaints have been filed, and those are going through the system, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. One thing is the fines are extremely low, so it's hardly even a slap on the wrist if you did get caught and found guilty. But at least we're going through the motions. Police shouldn't be speaking out about commenting on laws in their official capacity, and especially in uniform, which is the case at this last election. So we're working on that. It's interesting as you look through this paper that how many clinics there are for people that want to get their cards. Mercy Center, our friends up in Portland, have a clinic now and have a doctor, so they're able to provide that service. Our friends Sonny and Perry, they've been on our show multiple times. If you're a long-time watcher of the show, you've seen them before, and good friends of ours. And the Pipe Dreams is a smoke shop up in Albany. It was one of our participants in the Hemp Fest last year. No, it's Medford, excuse me, this is Pipe Dreams. No, this is Pipeline, excuse me. Pipeline is in Albany, Pipe Dreams is in Medford. Okay, Pipeline was the ones out of Albany that when our grand prize was stolen by a thief that last day of the event, Pipeline stepped forward and replaced it with 3 pieces. So we really appreciate that. So we've got a lot of good friends up in the area, and there's another smoke shop up also, High Tide. High Tide is also in Albany, and they're the ones that actually donated the grand prize, which was ultimately stolen, but they put out the grand prize for the Hemp Fest, and we really appreciated their participation. Oh yeah, I want to talk about the there's a nominee for DEA. President Obama wants Michelle Leonhardt to be in charge of the DEA, but there's been some grumbling about that. So Senator Herb Kohl is going to put a hold on the nomination and try to put a stop on that. So we'll see how that goes. The Oregon Green Free has a great ad in here. Oregon Green Free is the largest state organization in the medical marijuana patient organization in the state, with chapters all over and doing some great work. If anybody out there is a medical marijuana patient, I recommend highly to go to OregonGreenFree.net and check out their website, especially their forums. Extremely educational, and it's just a good resource in general. You might have heard about Willie Nelson, got stopped again, detained by the Border Patrol. They arrested Sonny, and Willie Nelson and 2 other people were arrested. I read another news story saying that the sheriff said that if he got Willie Nelson in jail, that he was going to put him to work cooking and cleaning like any other prisoner. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It's like an old friend of mine used to say, though, if you've got money in your pocket, always have money in your pocket, because people with money don't go to jail. So I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but that's probably a fairly good rule. And of course, we all know that Arizona finally passed their medical marijuana initiative. That was big news. It was going right down to the wire, and it was nip and tuck, and they ended up counting for quite some time. I think it was a couple weeks after. And but finally prevailed, and I should say sanity prevailed, and now Arizona became, I believe it's the 15th medical marijuana state. So, and I understand further, if we get 23 states, then it'll go national. Is what I was reading somewhere. So things are moving up there in that department. Of course, some people are saying we need to just back away from medical and start working on legalization. Now we've done all we can with medical, but that argument has going on back and forth. We are having some meetings, activists in the state, excuse me, trying to decide what to do and where to go next. The Oregon legislature is going to be interesting. We have to prepare for that. That's going to be one of the next things. And of course, we do have one initiative that has been filed, the Oregon Medical, the Oregon OCTA, Oregon Cannabis Taxation Act. It's tax and regulate initiative. This is the fourth or fifth attempt on this one. It's been filed, the collections and signatures have been gathered for the initial process, and pretty soon we'll be gathering signatures from voters, probably in February is what I've been told. So we'll be looking forward to that. The chief petitioner tells us that he's going to hire a company to gather signatures so that it'll be guaranteed to be on the ballot. So time will tell. All we can do is hope for the best. There was an article in here on Pets on Pot, which was written by Cheryl Smith. She's the executive director of the Compassion Center here in Eugene. It's an interesting article. There is something, I wish I had known about this article. I just saw her a few days ago. I would have asked her about it, but it's saying here that if you're, let's see, if you have given, say they say when your dog has ingested cannabis that you need to give them activated charcoal. It traps the toxins as it goes through the digestive system. But she goes on to saying here that if you have given them activated charcoal and your pet shows severe symptoms or isn't getting better, get her to a veterinarian. Okay, veterinarians can give supportive treatments such as IV fluids and other medications if the animal goes into a coma. Animals with marijuana poisoning rarely die, although it can happen. Now, I don't know. I've never heard of that case. We always talk about how it's cannabis is safe and there hasn't been a reported death from it. I've never heard of an animal dying from it, but that's something I might check into. I know my own experience. I had a dog that ate some cookies, and well, I was more concerned about the chocolate chip in the cookies than I was about the marijuana. But it's interesting. Some of these symptoms is definitely what he exhibited. But I kept him outside all night. To hear it saying you need to keep them warm because they can suffer from hypothermia. So apparently I was wrong there, but he turned out okay. But that's something to think about in the future, I guess, is that you got to think about their temperature too. But anyway, he was fine the next morning, and so I don't know, but that's something to look into to see if that if there is something to be concerned about there. And also there's a recipe section in the back, which is always fun, cooking with cannabis. Of course, you always have to be a little bit careful with cannabis cooking when you're eating it, because you don't know how potent it is, so you need to eat small amounts and then see how it affects you before you try it again. I always like to say wait at least 30 minutes from the time you eat something until you decide whether it's taken effect and you want to eat some more. I'd say a good 30 minutes. They have a recipe here for a hot can of buttered rum, and that's very common. People like to use make a cannabis butter, and then you can use the butter for cooking. So a lot more different ways that you can use that. There's all kinds of recipes around. I've gotten some off the internet myself and given them to friends. But again, the problem with cooking is, like I said, you don't know how potent it is, and it depends on how potent it is what you're working with. Some people might be working with just leaf, and it's not very potent, whereas other people might have, say, just a bunch of bud, and then which is extremely potent. So anyway, sneak up on it. But these recipes, everything from, as I mentioned, the hot buttered rum, spinach dip, can of carnivals, cheddar biscuits. These all are sounding really good. So I like caramel myself, so a can of caramels, that might be kind of interesting. So, and then we've got a couple pages on cultivation, which are written up pretty much by Stony Girls. Our friend is up at Stony Girl Gardens. A whole back page of clinics and information. So if you need a copy of the Oregon Cannabis Connection, like I said, send us an email and we'll figure out how to get one to you, or you can go up to the Voter Power office on River Avenue. That's 687 River Avenue. So thanks for coming by, and hopefully next week we'll have some guests and we'll get some more information to you either way. So thanks for coming in, and we'll see you next time.
And now a message from the American Marijuana Growers Association.
farmer, and I work hard every day to grow high-quality marijuana, the biggest cash crop in these United States. I'd like to thank you for your support of U.S. marijuana policy. Because marijuana is illegal, I don't have to pay taxes. Even better, prohibition leads to artificially inflated prices, which means a better quality of life for me and my family, as long as I don't get caught. Just as importantly, your tax dollars support thousands of U.S. agents who work tirelessly to keep low-grade, foreign marijuana out of our country. So thank you, America. And remember, whether you're nauseated from chemotherapy or just in the mood for a nice cool buzz, choose the best pot in the world, American homegrown.
Hello and welcome to the MPP Insider. I'm Mike Mino. Let's get things started with another installment of In the News. As many of you know by now, we have some great news to talk about today, and that is that Arizona has passed medical marijuana. They are now the 15th state in the nation to have a medical marijuana law. Proposition 203, which was the MPP-backed ballot measure, passed by a little more than 4,000 votes when all the ballots were tallied out of about 1.67 million cast. So it was a very close election, especially in a year where we saw Republican gains nationwide. A huge victory. We now have another state in the medical marijuana camp, another one that is going to protect patients suffering from cancer and AIDS and other debilitating illnesses from arrest if marijuana is the medicine that works best for them. The ballot measure will also create about 120 tightly regulated state licensed dispensaries throughout Arizona. So another huge crack in marijuana prohibition, another crucial blow to the government's devastating, irrational, cruel prohibition on marijuana. We're going to get more medicine legally to the patients who need it in Arizona. So this is great news. We're hoping to build off this momentum with more victories in 2012. You can read a lot more about Proposition 203 and the plan for Arizona going forward on our blog, as always, blog.mpp.org. And to keep the good news going, I want to turn to New Mexico for a minute. In New Mexico, the New Mexico Department of Health has approved 6 more nonprofit medical marijuana providers in that state, bringing the total number to 17. So we keep seeing these programs expanding. New Mexico's program, even though it's opposed by the incoming Republican governor, has worked well. It's tightly regulated and popularly supported, most of all. And one of my favorite stories from the past couple weeks actually came from outside one of the 50 United States, but still within United States territory, and that was in Puerto Rico, where a judge on the Boston-based First Circuit Court of Appeals, Juan Turella, a 77-year-old judge, first appointed by Gerald Ford, promoted by Ronald Reagan, gave a speech at the University of Puerto Rico Law School where he said, "Our drug laws have failed and it's time to begin experimenting with drug legalization, starting with marijuana." He cited many studies, a lot of history about marijuana prohibition, spoke to an audience of mostly students and some professors and dignitaries in Puerto Rico. But his comments were picked up, and we wrote about them on the blog. Check it out there. And got picked up over the internet. So once again, we have another esteemed official, certainly someone who is appointed by Republicans, who is a sitting federal United States judge saying our drug laws have failed. Let's end marijuana prohibition. Huge development. Also, another U.S. territory, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. Recently, their House of Representatives, this is a U.S. territory, it's an island out in the Pacific Ocean, their House of Representatives passed a bill that would make marijuana legal for medicinal and recreational purposes, passed by the House of Representatives of the U.S. territory. Unfortunately, it was voted down by their Senate, a rather close vote. 5 out of 9 senators voted against the bill. But still, we're seeing the notion that marijuana prohibition has failed and that a new approach is needed take hold outside of the 50 United States as well as within. So it's really exciting. We always talk about the incremental approach. These are all steps along the path towards victory. And with that, we're going to turn to a news segment today, which we'd like to call Better Know Your Drug Warrior. But of course, you know, with this issue, it's not only good news we get to promote, but we also are going to give you some dire warnings about people who are still fighting to keep marijuana illegal, who still want to arrest otherwise law-abiding marijuana users, and who still want to keep the failure of marijuana prohibition alive. And one of those most responsible that we're going to focus on today is Michelle Leonhardt. We've talked about her before. We've talked about her a lot on the blog. This is a woman who has been in the higher levels of the Drug Enforcement Administration for many years. She was first appointed by George W. Bush to be Deputy Administrator of the DEA, and for the last 2 years has been serving as interim DEA head. During that time, she presided over hundreds of raids on state legal medical marijuana patients and providers. She herself rejected an application from the University of Massachusetts to do FDA-level research on marijuana to help move it through the FDA approval process. And just last week, she was before the Senate Judiciary Committee to be confirmed full-time as the new head of the DEA. She was renominated for that post by President Obama in February. And of course, this is very disturbing to many of us who were hoping that the current Obama administration would offer a new direction in marijuana policy. And we've talked a lot about the frustration we've had with current drug czar Gil Kurlikowski, but especially with Michelle Leonhardt, who is a holdover from the Bush administration, who presided over Bush-era raids and harmful tactics against medical marijuana patients. And now President Obama, who had this pledge to respect state medical marijuana laws, has nominated the same exact person that President Bush did to lead the DEA. Now, what we've gathered from our sources and from behind the scenes is that her nomination is all but certain. Very few people want to vote against an Obama nominee. The Democrats are still in charge of the committee until next year. However, what we were hoping and what our allies were hoping was that by generating emails and calls to senators who serve on the Judiciary Committee, we could get some people to ask some really tough questions of Ms. Leonhardt. Ask her, as DEA head, how is she going to address this growing divide between state and federal marijuana laws? We now have 15 medical marijuana states. Unfortunately, not a single senator asked her a tough question about marijuana in particular, and it was very disappointing for us to watch that hearing. But what did happen was Senator Jeff Sessions, a Republican from Alabama, tossed her a few softballs where he was basically saying, look, I think marijuana is bad and should remain illegal, and I think all the arguments for legalization are false, and I need you to tell me that you agree. And you can go to the blog, blog.mpp.org, to read her comments, but she basically said that not only would she continue to enforce federal marijuana laws in states where medical marijuana is now legal in direct violation of a directive from the Obama administration's Department of Justice, but she went on to say that legalizing marijuana would not help the cartel situation in Mexico, which numerous studies have showed is blatantly false. She said no one is studying the social effect of ending marijuana prohibition, the social cost of ending marijuana prohibition. Also, blatantly false. We talk to you all the time about new studies coming out showing the harm that is done by prohibition, not the drug itself, and how in a regulated legal marijuana market we would have far fewer problems than we do today. It was really just a very disturbing scene, but this is someone who we're going to have to keep our eye on. She is going to be overseeing the DEA for years to come. And with that, we're going to end that news segment, but I want to get two more plugs in for MPP before we're done, and that is some MPP in the media. We recently had our Director of Government Relations, Steve Fox, back on the Fox and Friends morning show for the third time, talking about our victory in Arizona. You can catch the video on our blog and on YouTube. And also there is a History Channel special that is on the airwaves right now. It's being repeated a couple times. A Chronic History. It is a history of marijuana prohibition, how it first happened, and the movement to end marijuana prohibition. Interviews a lot of leaders in the field on both sides of the debate, including MPP Executive Director Rob Campia. So if you're flipping around the channels, see that on the History Channel. Please take a minute, check it out. Rob and others talking about the movement to end marijuana prohibition. And I think that's going to do it for us here on the MPP Insider. Thanks as always for watching, and please continue to check the website for updates. don't give up hope. There's a lot of progress, a lot of good news to be had down the line. So thanks again.
It's a boycott over pot as a national advocacy group takes aim at the world's largest retailer. It's a story News Channel 3 was first to report. Walmart has already faced down protests over the firing of Joseph Cassius, a 29-year-old who says he uses medical marijuana and also says that's what got him dismissed from his job at the Walmart store in Battle Creek. News Channel 3 has learned that a group which is calling for reform on marijuana laws is urging its members to stay away from Walmart stores. Runji Sinha spoke with a representative from that group. He joins us live with more. Runji.
Well, Judy, it's called the Marijuana Policy Project, and the MPP says it has 124,000 members, and now the group is telling those members and affiliates to boycott Walmart over the firing of Joseph Cassius. News Channel 3 was the first station to talk to Joseph Casillas after he was fired, and we've continued to follow the story even when Walmart started facing down protests. Well, apparently the MPP has also been following the case and the protests, and it is asking shoppers to demand that Walmart change its marijuana policies so that it doesn't discriminate against people that are legally allowed to use medical marijuana under state law.
We're hoping by drawing attention to this, we can also highlight the plight of medical marijuana patients in these 14 states that have to deal with this this unfortunate circumstance of operating in a potential legal gray area where their employers think it's okay to fire them simply for using a safe, legal, and effective medicine.
Now, the Marijuana Policy Project also says that Cassius' firing violates the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. They also say that Walmart is contesting Cassius' unemployment benefits. Now, we spoke to Walmart when our original story on Cassius ran, and the retailer did say that in a state such as Michigan, an employer can still enforce a policy that ends with termination after an employee has had a positive drug screening test. Reporting live, Runji Sinha, News Channel 3.
Hi, I'm Ken Walsky. I'm Executive Director of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey. The mission of our organization is to educate the public about the benefits of medical marijuana. Marijuana is a safe, effective, and inexpensive therapeutic agent for a wide variety of diseases, symptoms, and conditions. It should be available to any patient who can benefit from it. No patient should ever suffer needlessly, and no patient should ever go to jail for following the advice of a physician. For more information, visit our website at www.cmmnj.org. Thank you.